Stop for a few minutes, as this message will change the course of your story. At the heart of modernity lies a disturbing truth. Freedom may be an illusion. Almost 200 years ago, a thinker warned that no one is more imprisoned than those who believe they are free. This message resonates with surprising clarity today, as many distract themselves with superficial pleasures, believing they live in a free society. But what does freedom really mean in a world filled with distractions and entertainment? As technology advances, the invisible chains become more subtle. We are immersed in a sea of comfort and distraction, unaware that these choices may further imprison us. Aldous Huxley, in his work Brave New World, predicted a future where happiness is imposed through enticing pleasures. But do these pleasures liberate us, or make us servants of our own illusions? As we explore this theme, crucial questions arise. How far does our freedom of choice extend, and what are we willing to sacrifice to maintain it? Critical reflection is essential. True freedom demands courage and awareness. What do you truly desire? Before we continue, I ask you to subscribe to our channel to help us grow, and comment below with your city so I can know how far my message is reaching. Invisible slavery is an intriguing concept that makes us reflect on the true nature of freedom. Often we believe we are free because we have the ability to make decisions, but this does not always reflect reality. The central idea is that even when we think we are free, we may be trapped by beliefs and conditioning that shape our choices. This disconnect between perceived freedom and real freedom is a theme that deserves attention. When we analyze daily life, we realize that many of us follow social norms and expectations without questioning them. These invisible chains, which can be cultural, social, or even psychological influences, keep us in a state of conformity. Thus, true freedom becomes a distant ideal, a concept that exists only in our minds, while in practice, we are guided by external forces. Reflecting on this invisible slavery is essential for us to begin to recognize the limitations imposed on us. An important point to consider is that this invisible slavery does not manifest only in extreme contexts, but also in common situations. Excessive consumption of products, the relentless pursuit of approval on social media, and the pressure to succeed are clear examples of how we can imprison ourselves in our own expectations. Often, we are so distracted by the quest for an ideal life that we forget to question whether this life truly makes us happy or if it aligns with our true desires. The disconnect between the freedom we believe we have and the reality we live in is a trap. This condition leads us to a deep reflection on what it means to be truly free. To escape this invisible slavery, a conscious effort of self-assessment and questioning is necessary. We need to ask ourselves, are we really free, or do we just believe we are? Ultimately, this analysis invites us to awaken. The first step toward real freedom is awareness. By recognizing the chains that bind us, we can begin to work towards freeing ourselves from these shackles, and thus seek a more authentic and meaningful life. When we talk about dystopias, one of the first texts that comes to mind is 1984 by George Orwell and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Although both works depict oppressive societies, they differ in how social control is exercised. In 1984, control is explicit and violent, with constant surveillance and severe punishments for any form of dissent. Individual freedom is crushed by the brute force of the state. On the other hand, in Brave New World, control is subtle and disguised as comfort. Society is kept in check through the manipulation of happiness and satisfaction. The use of drugs and entertainment are tools that ensure people do not question their condition. Thus, while in 1984, people are forced to obey, in Brave New World, they are conditioned to accept their situation with joy. Both works prompt us to reflect on what it means to live in a society that prioritizes conformity. The pressure to fit into social norms can be just as oppressive as direct repression. In 1984, freedom is denied through fear, while in Brave New World, the pursuit of happiness becomes a trap. This contrast leads us to question which form of control is more effective and more dangerous. The similarities between the two dystopias cannot be overlooked either. Both address the idea that truth can be manipulated and that people can be led to accept distorted realities. The role of propaganda and disinformation is crucial in both narratives, showing that social control can be exercised through both force and persuasion. Thus, the comparison between these dystopias allows us to better understand the mechanisms of control that may be present in our society. By recognizing these similarities and differences, we can become more aware of the forces that shape our lives and, in turn, seek ways to resist them. Disconnection and distraction. We live in an era where technology, drugs, and entertainment are present in almost every aspect of our lives. This combination creates a distracted citizenship, unable to perceive the chains that bind us. Constant interaction with electronic devices distances us from real and deep interactions, while entangling us in a web of superficial information. This disconnection is a modern trap that prevents us from seeing the reality around us. Excessive use of social media and entertainment platforms not only consumes our time, but also shapes our perceptions. Often, we are swept away by trends and fads without reflecting on what we truly value. This lack of reflection generates a cycle of distraction, where superficiality becomes the norm, and deeper issues such as freedom and identity are left aside. Moreover, drugs, both legal and illegal, contribute to this disconnection. They can offer a temporary escape from problems, but also create a dependency that distances us from reality. The pursuit of immediate pleasure often eclipses the need to confront significant issues in our lives, such as our fears, desires, and longings. Thus, distraction becomes a survival strategy in a world that demands more and more from us. The consequence of this disconnection is a society that often passively accepts situations without questioning them. The lack of critical engagement allows questionable norms and values to perpetuate. When we are distracted, we lose the ability to resist injustices and to fight for meaningful change. It is like living in a bubble, where the external reality becomes irrelevant. Therefore, it is crucial that we seek ways to reconnect with what truly matters. This involves not only reducing the time spent on distractions, but also pursuing a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. By doing so, we can begin to break the chains that bind us, in search of true and meaningful autonomy. Operant conditioning, a concept developed by B.F. Skinner, is a powerful tool that explains how behaviors can be shaped by consequences. In simple terms, when a behavior is rewarded, it is more likely to be repeated. Conversely, when it is punished, it tends to be avoided. This idea has profound implications for social control, as it suggests that through rewards and punishments, it is possible to direct human behavior. In today's society, this concept manifests in various ways. For example, social media platforms use operant conditioning to keep users engaged. Likes, comments, and shares function as rewards that reinforce platform usage. This creates a vicious cycle in which people feel compelled to seek validation online, often at the expense of their real-life interactions. Additionally, operant conditioning is utilized in broader contexts, such as in education and the workplace. Reward systems like promotions and financial incentives shape the behavior of employees and students, leading them to conform to established expectations. While this conformity can be beneficial in some cases, it can also result in a lack of creativity and innovation, as individuals may feel pressured to follow predetermined paths. By understanding operant conditioning, we can become more aware of the forces that shape our behavior. This enables us to question whether we are acting according to our own values or merely reacting to external rewards. Self-awareness is crucial for breaking free from conditioning that may limit our personal freedom. Ultimately, reflecting on operant conditioning helps us recognize that while some forms of social control are evident and direct, others are subtle and almost invisible. By becoming more conscious of these dynamics, we can begin to seek ways to free ourselves from the constraints that bind us and live more authentically. By understanding operant conditioning, we can become more aware of the forces that shape our behavior. This enables us to question whether we are acting according to our own values or merely reacting to external rewards. Self-awareness is crucial for breaking free from conditioning that may limit our personal freedom. Ultimately, reflecting on operant conditioning helps us recognize that while some forms of social control are evident and direct, others are subtle and almost invisible. By becoming more conscious of these dynamics, we can begin to seek ways to free ourselves from the constraints that bind us and live more authentically. The role of the drug soma. In the universe of Brave New World, the drug soma is more than just a substance. It is a powerful symbol of the distractions that permeate modern life. Just as soma is used by the citizens of the work to escape reality, many people today turn to different forms of emotional anesthesia, whether through medications, alcohol, or entertainment. These options provide a way to disconnect from daily worries and social pressure, creating an illusion of happiness. However, this relentless pursuit of relief can result in a conformity that prevents true reflection on what it means to be free. In addition to providing an escape, soma serves to maintain social order. By ensuring that people do not feel discomfort or dissatisfaction, the state can avoid revolts and questioning. This dynamic is evident in our society, where the search for comfort and pleasure can lead to the passive acceptance of unsatisfactory conditions. The use of substances or distractions to cope with everyday life ultimately becomes a form of control, promoting the idea that happiness can be found in a pill or a click. Another important aspect is that, like soma, modern distractions can create a disconnection from authentic emotions. By taking refuge in superficial pleasures, people distance themselves from deeper feelings that could lead to significant changes. The culture of immediacy and rapid consumption, present in various media, reinforces this idea, showing that the pursuit of instant satisfaction can be a trap. Instead of facing challenges and adversities, many choose the easier path, perpetuating a cycle of alienation. This phenomenon is not limited to a specific group, but permeates all social classes. The idea that soma is necessary for happiness is reflected in how people deal with their pain and frustrations. Instead of seeking lasting solutions or confronting social issues, many opt to distract themselves. Thus, social conformity is maintained as the focus shifts away from the issues that truly matter for a fuller existence. Finally, the analysis of soma in Brave New World leads us to reflect on our dependence on modern distractions. It is an invitation to question whether we are truly living or merely surviving in a state of anesthesia. The quest for immediate pleasure can be seductive, but it is essential to find a balance that allows for a more authentic and meaningful life. Promiscuity and social control. In Brave New World, sexual promiscuity is presented as a tool of social control. The state promotes casual and short-term relationships to avoid deep emotional bonds that could generate conflict and discontent. This strategy is a way to keep the population under control, as by discouraging love and family, it prevents the formation of nuclei that would challenge the established order. Sexual freedom, which should be a conquest, is transformed into a mechanism of submission. This concept raises questions about contemporary culture. In many societies, sexuality is often explored in a superficial manner, promoting the idea that ephemeral relationships are the norm. This can result in emotional disconnection, where the true meaning of love and commitment is diluted. Just like in Huxley's work, the pursuit of immediate satisfaction in relationships can serve to keep people distracted and uninterested in questioning their reality. Moreover, promiscuity as a tool of control is also reflected in how media and advertising approach sexuality. Many campaigns and entertainment programs promote a distorted view of relationships, valuing instant pleasure over deeper connections. This pattern can lead to the normalization of behaviors that ultimately reinforce social conformity, preventing a critical analysis of one's own life. The discussion about promiscuity also touches on issues of consent and autonomy. In a society where relationships are devoid of emotional depth, true consent may be compromised. People may feel pressured to participate in a culture that glorifies casual sexuality, even if it does not align with their personal values. This creates a cycle of depersonalization, where individuality is lost in favor of social acceptance. Therefore, the use of promiscuity as a tactic of social control in Brave New World serves as a warning about the dangers of a culture that values superficiality over authenticity. Reflecting on these patterns is essential to understand how human relationships can be shaped and manipulated, leading to conformity instead of true freedom. Entertainment and propaganda. The entertainment in Brave New World is carefully crafted by the state to distract the population and minimize any form of resistance. In this world, people are constantly bombarded with distractions that keep them occupied and, consequently, oblivious to what is really happening around them. Analyzing this phenomenon leads us to reflect on how, in contemporary society, media and entertainment play similar roles. By offering a constant flow of information and content, often superficial, society ends up distancing itself from issues that require critical reflection. In a world saturated with entertainment, people tend to feel less motivated to act or engage in social issues. Propaganda, allied with entertainment, shapes public perception, making certain behaviors and ideas accepted without question. Through labels and slogans, the entertainment industry can promote ideals that often do not reflect reality, but rather the interests of a few. This phenomenon is concerning, as truth and authenticity take a back seat. Moreover, state-sanctioned entertainment can create a false sense of freedom. Individuals believe they are free to choose what they want to consume, but in reality, their choices are limited and manipulated by external forces. This illusion of freedom is an effective form of control, as people end up feeling satisfied with their options, without realizing they are within a structure that directs them. Social critique becomes almost non-existent when the focus is on having fun and being distracted. The intersection of entertainment and propaganda also raises questions about identity formation. When people are constantly exposed to ideals promoted by the media, they may internalize these standards as normal. This can lead to mass conformity, where individuality and diverse thoughts are sacrificed for the sake of superficial acceptance. The result is a society that values entertainment over critical engagement. Finally, the investigation of the role of entertainment and propaganda in Brave New World serves as a warning for contemporary reality. The way we entertain ourselves and consume information can have a profound impact on our ability to resist oppression. It is essential to question not only what we are watching, but also how it shapes our perceptions and actions in the world. The impact of psychotropic drugs. Psychotropic drugs have become increasingly common in modern society. Many people turn to them as a way to escape the pressures of everyday life. The use of these substances, which alter mental and emotional states, can provide temporary relief, but also raises serious questions about mental health and individual freedom. When someone becomes dependent on a drug, the search for that substance can become a priority, overshadowing other important areas of life. Additionally, dependence on psychotropic drugs can result in a vicious cycle. Often, people who use these drugs do so to cope with emotional or social problems. However, dependence can exacerbate these issues, creating a state of despair and loneliness. This prevents the individual from seeking help or facing their difficulties, further worsening their condition and limiting their freedom of choice. The normalization of drug use in contemporary society also brings social consequences. Instead of promoting a dialogue about mental health and coping strategies, the solution is often simply to offer medication. This can lead people to feel that they have no control over their lives, trading freedom for a dependence that initially seems to alleviate suffering. This subtle and dangerous exchange can lead to a passive acceptance of the situation, making it harder to pursue true freedom. Another point to consider is the impact of psychotropic drugs on society as a whole. When a significant portion of the population becomes dependent, critical thinking and resistance diminish. Distracted and debilitated citizens may conform to control systems they would otherwise question. This dynamic raises the question: to what extent can chemical dependence be used as a tool for social control? Finally, the growing dependence on psychotropic drugs not only affects the individual, but also shapes society. What was once seen as a personal problem becomes a collective issue, involving public health, safety, and human rights. The consequences are profound, and demand careful reflection on what it means to be free in a world where immediate pleasure is often prioritized over health and lasting freedom. The future of freedom. Reflecting on the future of freedom is a necessary exercise in times when pleasures and comforts are often exchanged for rights and responsibilities. In a society where consumption and the pursuit of immediate satisfaction are encouraged, freedom can seem like a luxury commodity, available only to those who can resist temptations. This exchange can lead to a passive acceptance of imposed conditions, where freedom becomes a nebulous concept. As individuals become more dependent on instant pleasures, the ability to take on responsibilities diminishes. Freedom, which involves choice and responsibility, is often sacrificed in the name of comfort. People may prefer to submit to social norms that guarantee an easier life, but this choice may cost them autonomy. It is a complicated dilemma. To what extent can the pursuit of comfort compromise true freedom? Furthermore, the incessant quest for immediate pleasure can lead to a disconnection from reality. When fun becomes the priority, social and political issues may be ignored. This not only weakens the public sphere, but also diminishes individuals' ability to organize and fight for their rights. The future of freedom, therefore, depends on awareness and the capacity to question the structures that surround us. Education and critical reflection play essential roles in preserving freedom. Cultivating a sense of responsibility and civic engagement can help counterbalance the tendency to seek only pleasure. True freedom involves the ability to think critically, act responsibly, and resist the pressures that seek to keep us in a comfort zone. Lastly, freedom should not be seen as an absolute state, but as a continuous process of struggle and conquest. The future of freedom depends on how society deals with the exchanges it makes in the name of pleasure. Maintaining a healthy balance between comfort and responsibility is fundamental to ensuring that freedom does not become an illusion, but rather a reality accessible to all. Division of humanity. The manipulation of human behavior can lead to significant social division. Those who accept their servitude, often in exchange for comfort and security, may become complacent, while those who resist this manipulation strive to preserve their freedom and humanity. This division can become even more pronounced in a society where conformity is rewarded and resistance is punished. Those who conform tend to accept the status quo, believing that life is easier this way. This acceptance can be seen as a form of survival, but it can also result in a loss of identity. Freedom, for these individuals, may be replaced by a sense of belonging that, while comforting, is superficial and temporary. The lack of questioning creates an environment conducive to manipulation, where true freedom becomes a distant concept. In contrast, those who resist manipulation face significant challenges. They may be labeled as rebels or problematic, and their voices often get lost amidst the clamor for conformity. However, this resistance is vital for the preservation of freedom. Those who rise against the chains of manipulation not only fight for themselves but also pave the way for others to recognize their own chains. This division between conformists and resistors can have profound consequences for society. The lack of dialogue and understanding between these groups can lead to increased polarization and social fragmentation. What could be a joint struggle for freedom and justice can turn into a conflict between different perspectives. Therefore, it is essential to seek a space for conversation and understanding, even amid disagreements. The manipulation of human behavior is a reality that cannot be ignored. The division between those who accept and those who resist servitude reflects the choices we make daily. To preserve freedom and humanity, there must be a conscious effort to challenge manipulation and promote inclusive dialogue. Only then can we build a society where freedom is a truly shared right for all. As we reflect on Huxley's words and the reality that surrounds us, it is essential to ask, are we truly free? Or are we prisoners of our own distractions? What seems to be a world of unlimited choices may in fact be a subtle trap, where we trade our freedom for temporary pleasures. The challenges we face today are reflections of a conditioning that goes beyond the physical. It seeps into our minds and hearts. Think about how many times you caught yourself scrolling through social media, seeking immediate satisfaction while time slips through your fingers. This distraction is the true chain that keeps us captive. Now, imagine a world where each of us decided to break these chains. What would you do to rediscover your freedom? What actions can you take today to live more consciously? The choice is yours. To remain in the comfort of servitude, or to seek the empowerment that comes from true freedom. Remember, freedom is not just a state of being, but a daily practice. What steps will you take to free yourself from invisible shackles and live fully? Share your ideas and reflections in the comments. This dialogue is essential for us to cultivate a more conscious and free future together.